These are the things I'll always remember about Dorine. She was bright-eyed and beautiful and artistic and complex. She was a deep woman with a strong sense of what was right. She was sunshine and happy smiles with lots and lots of giggles, and she was always cheerful. She was strong, devoted, dedicated, loyal, and selfless. She was positive and happy, sassy and fun. She was always thankful and brave. She loved her family and her friends, and she was devoted and dedicated and a loving wife and mother. She loved to help solve problems and was fiercely loyal to her friends. She was like a one-woman handyman who could fix almost anything. She was so lovable that everyone who knew her loved her. She was deep and spiritual. She loved church and she loved our Bible study group. She was full of thankfulness and faith. She was a special child of God. She was my friend, my loyal supporter, my confidant, my sister in crime, and by choice, and she blessed my life in so many ways. She's well now and safe with our Lord. It'll be a glorious day when we meet again. I love you, Dorine, and I'll never forget.
Hey, Mike and Eddie. This is Connie. You know, our families have been entwined for many years. David, he shared his school years with both you, Mike, and Dorine. And of course, we shared your blessing when Eddie entered your family. But the last few years, I've shared some time with Dorine that will just last in my heart forever. She and I share some very special friends. We study the Bible with these ladies. We share birthdays, party with these ladies. We laugh and we cry with these special friends. And we've offered many prayers for our families and friends. I will forever be indebted to this group when I join these group of ladies because I got to know Dorine as a close friend. She was the first person to send me a text when this pandemic started. I think it was on March 20th when I look back. And she just said, hope you and David are staying safe and healthy. Love you, and a big heart. And then she sent another text on April 15th that I've saved, checking in on David and I. And then on July the 7th, I sent her a text while she was in the hospital, just letting her know we were praying, not expecting a text back. And she sent a text back to me with thumbs up and a big heart. She was just so special. I think my fondest gift she gave to me was her sweet giggle. She always giggled. She always had a smile, and she always laughed. She brought joy to my heart, and I just wanted you to know that today. And my prayer is for you and Eddie as you travel this journey without your precious Dorine. But we all have some sweet, sweet memories. Love you, Mike and Eddie.
I'm Sue Carol Jenkins. Dorine was a special friend, always positive and uplifting with an infectious laugh. We shared many stories in our Bible studies and had fun at our birthday celebrations, which I will never forget. Thank you, Mike and Eddie, for sharing Dorine with us. Dorine had an amazing art ability in her drawings and paintings. I feel really blessed to have had Dorine as a dear friend, and I miss her each day. Thank you, Lord, for bringing her into our lives, and she will always be in my heart.
Hi, I'm Linda Norton. Jane Cherry introduced Dorine to me, and I must say I loved her immediately. We had an instant friendship. Dorine and I share October birthdays. We celebrate our birthdays together with, as Mike calls us, the sisters. I want to share a memorable birthday in 2018. As we're sitting at the table opening our gifts, all of a sudden, the ribbon and the paper caught fire. Needless to say, we reacted quickly, and then we all burst out laughing. We know the restaurant was happy to see us leave. I want to share with you a scripture that I think truly depicts Dorine. It's John 15, 8 through 11. You should produce much fruit and show that you are my followers. which brings glory to my Father. I loved you as the Father loved me. Now remain in my love. I have obeyed my Father's commands, and I remain in his love. In the same way, if you obey my commands, you will remain in my love. I have told you these things so that you can have the same joy I have, and so that your joy will be the fullest possible joy. I think we would all agree that Dorine had the fullest possible joy. And my prayer is that we find the joy that Dorine had and share it with one another. God bless you, Mike and Eddie, and may he keep you in his loving arms.
Mike, Eddie, this is Lucy. I just want you both to know what a bright spot Dorine was in my life. Not just my life, but every life she touched. With our birthday girls group, later additionally deemed Bible study, she was the smile, the good mood, the best storyteller, the positive outlooker that we all learned to appreciate, expect, and count on when she entered the room. She was so in tune with us as her friends. When Dorine gave you a gift, you knew she put so much thought and effort into giving you just the right present that represented her love and how much she valued the friendship. I texted her a couple of times when she first was admitted to the hospital, and she did reply with a sweet, upbeat message that I'll never erase. My last text to Dorine was Sunday, July the 19th, when I got the encouraging news that she had been taken off the ventilator. I was so happy thinking she had turned a corner, and I was looking forward to her recovery. My text said, "Welcome back, dear precious friend." But that sense of excitement was short-lived as she quickly had to be put back on the vent. As sad as it is not to have her here, as large as the void is to not have your wife, Mike, your mom, Eddie, and all that she was to her family and friends, that bright spot in our lives, as sad as it is, I cannot even imagine the joy and celebration as she was escorted into heaven and as she heard, "Welcome back, dear precious daughter. Welcome home." I love you guys. I loved her.
Hello everyone. Thank you for coming to celebrate Dorine's life. I really appreciate you being here. We wanted to have the funeral at this time to give us some time. We were hoping that coronavirus would subside some. It really hasn't, so I appreciate you coming in these difficult times. I also want to thank the Hornwall Methodist Church and Pastor Gibson for letting us have the service here. This is back home for Dorine. She grew up in this church and we were married in this church. I want to thank Kenny Graves for helping me at Graves Cemetery. He's been wonderful. He's helped me a lot, and I really appreciate everything that he's done. Jane Cherry for coordinating the flowers and also helping Eddie and me at home. She's been very helpful. I want to give a special thanks to Carla Baker for coming in a couple of days a week and helping Eddie and me every week. She has contributed a lot, and it's made a big difference as we go through this recovery. I want to thank everyone who contributed an audio or video segment, both in her get well message while she was sick and also to make this service a little bit more personal. I really appreciate those who contributed to that. And a special thank you to Mark and Kathy Sisco. They've been tremendous support. They've been with us every step of the way, and they've really been helpful. And also to all of our close friends and family who've been so supportive in the weeks following Dorine passing. I want to share some things about Dorine that made her special to me. Most of you won't know these things, and even her closest friends and sister probably won't know a few of them. I wanted to deliver this message in person, but I knew that I couldn't, and by recording it, Eddie will have it for the future. How do you celebrate someone's life when losing that person creates such deep and intense pain? So much sorrow that you don't know how you're supposed to think, to act, or what to do. Feeling good about things one minute to not being able to function the next minute. How do I celebrate Dorine's life when a big part of Eddie and me is gone forever? I discovered something over Labor Day weekend, a period when I was really struggling. When I feel sad or sorry for myself, because that's usually what's going on, I try to shift my thoughts to the positive memories I have of Dorine, or look at some photos, or just sit in her art room and listen to music to remember how beautiful she was with her great smile and laugh. I think of little things that made me love her so much, made us happy, caused us to cry and to laugh. Good and exceptional times for sure. We all have many fond and personal memories of Dorine and what made her special to each of us. I encourage each of you to think of these things when you reflect on Dorine not being with us. I created a program card to give you a remembrance of her and something that you can use to remember her. Let me share some thoughts about Dorine that made her special to me. Dorine and I dated essentially by mail in 1970, just like her mom and dad did in World War II, by letter. We were both 20 years old, and although we had known each other for a long time, since the first grade, and were close friends, we never dated. In looking back, it seems like fate that we finally connected. I think we were a couple waiting to happen, and we were so comfortable with one another from the very get-go. It all started when I came home on leave before heading to Hawaii for 2 years while I was in the Marine Corps. Dorine came out to my parents' house to visit her best friend Judy, who happened to be living with my parents at the time, and I was there. We all go for a Coke, Dorine and I had a date, and then we went to Nashville to see a movie titled Romeo and Juliet. The theme song to this movie has always been very special for both of us, and you'll hear that during the exit of this service. The connection from a lifelong friendship was very easy, and it was quick to happen. Well, I go and report to Hawaii, and we started writing to each other. From March to December of 1970, we wrote over 260 letters to one another. Well, on December the 26th of 1970, we were married right here in this church. Anyone who knows us would say Dorine and Mike have had a very successful marriage. But more importantly, I think, we've had the best of friendships and enjoyed one another's company. Watching things like The Curse of Oak Island, The Big Bang Theory, one of our favorite shows, taking trips when we could, and going on date night. Date night is something we have done for 49 years. It never got old or boring. It was always fun doing things with Dorine. I loved to hold her hand and kiss her hand when we drove to a restaurant or back home. It was one of my favorite times, and it was a very intimate time with my wife. Well, Dorine saved all of our letters that we wrote to each other before getting married. Reading them all the first few weeks after she died was very, very helpful, and reminded me of how much we were in love at the very beginning. Dorine was the most supportive wife, mom, and good friend that you could have. I hope I've been that for her. Privately, I called Dorine Doe, D-O. It was a pet name she started in her letters before we got married. She had a couple of pet names for me, but we'll just stop right there. Except to say that when she called me Cisco, I knew I was in trouble, and I better straighten up. She also created the nickname Daddy Gene for my dad. In one of her letters, she explained that Mom and Dad had talked to her after they knew we were getting married, and they explained to her that Mom wanted her to call her June and Daddy wanted her to call him Gene, not Daddy, not Dad, not Mr. or Sir. So what she said she was going to do, she was going to call him Daddy Gene just to aggravate him. And any of you who know my dad understand how appropriate that was from the very beginning. So Daddy Gene stuck, and that's what we all called him from then until he passed away. Well, I knew quickly after we got married, I had married someone special. After she joined me in Hawaii, close friends of mine that I played a lot of golf with, Sergeant Major Ed Hunt and his wife Johnny Lou, took us to a fancy restaurant, dinner and show at the Ilokai Hotel in Honolulu. We actually named our son Eddie after their son Eddie Hunt III, who I played a lot of golf with. Well, we had a good dinner that night and we went downstairs to see a show by Johnny Ray. He was a popular singer in the 60s, and Mrs. Hunt was a big fan. Well, the Hunts made sure Dorine and I, we're still newlyweds, had great seats right on the aisle. In one of Johnny Ray's songs, he strolls over to our table, kneels down in front of Dorine, and sings right up to her. Ms. Hunt got so excited. I remember that vividly. Well, Dorine was beautiful then, and she remained beautiful the rest of her life. Heads turned when she entered the room, but she never thought so or really cared about such things. Beauty is not just how someone looks, it's also very much about the person and who they are. Dorine was a beautiful woman and person with little imperfections that made you love her even more. Dorine got older, as we all do. Her hair got gray and she gained weight like most of us do. But some things never changed. She had the same beautiful smile from the early days when I knew her in school. When we got married, she had the same beautiful smile. Her great laugh and infectious little giggle that I'm sure all of you remember. She laughed a lot. Her keen sense of humor, laughing with me as much as laughing at me. And there was a lot of laughing at me, I can tell you. And her tremendous ability to be positive about things even in the toughest and most dire situations. Dorine never complained about anything. Now privately, I would kid her about, why are you complaining so much? But in reality, Dorine never really complained. Dorine was without a doubt the most positive person I've ever known, and I loved her for it. Dorine liked variety. She didn't stay focused on one thing too long, and it didn't matter if it was music or her art. With music, you've heard some of her favorite songs and artists in this service. She always cried when she heard the song Wind Beneath My Wings, and that was because it reminded her of her dad, Philip, or Pop-Pop as Eddie called him. I cry when I hear it because Dorine was and is my hero. She liked Louis Armstrong, the Carpenters, Bocelli, and Elvis. She had a wide taste in music. She painted and drew in multiple mediums and was capable in all of them. Oil, acrylic, chalk, pencil, watercolor, you name it, she could use it. She preferred acrylic and colored pencil. Dorine was an excellent artist with both a realistic and an impressionist touch, and I've included some of her works in the card that you have in front of you. She was her own worst critic. She always minimized her talent, while all the rest of us were in awe of what she could do, and so effortless too. I have to tell you one of our date night stories while discussing her art. We were in one of our favorite Italian restaurants in Atlanta, eating dinner at the bar. We always thought these times were romantic, very special, and we liked to eat at the bar to talk to the manager and employees we knew there. Well, we were talking and I mentioned to her that I would like to write a book about golf's short game, but I wanted to illustrate it with some images, and the problem was I couldn't draw a golf ball. Dorine smiled at me. I can still vividly see that smile of hers as she looked at me, and then she asked me for my pen. I always carry a pen with me. She reaches over, grabs a cocktail napkin, and very quickly draws a three-dimensional golf ball with dimples, shadows, and everything. She hands it to me and says, "It's just a circle, Mike." She made things so simple. Things were easy for her in that area. Some 15 years later, she drew another one, framed it, and gave it to me for a Christmas present. It's one of my favorite gifts from hundreds she has given me over the years. Dorine would say this: "Today is a canvas, color it." She lived for today. She always lived for today and wanted to make the most of every day. She was just like that. I wish I was more like that myself. Dorine painted everything, from furniture. She painted portraits, she painted dogs, outdoor scenes, she painted walls of our house, kitchen cabinets. She even painted our front door and had the outside of our house painted. She had a simple motto when it comes to painting, and that is, if it can be painted, it must be painted. I'm sure Jane Cherry has probably heard that and maybe even contributed to that saying. She loved to sew, and over the years sewed everything from clothes, baby bags, quilts, to all of our draperies. She was very much like her dad in that she could do anything she set her mind to do. Need someone to design and supervise construction of a new addition to our house while I'm working in New Mexico, and she's in a wheelchair with a broken foot and a severely sprained ankle on the other? No problem. Dorine can handle it, and she did. She was tough, strong, and determined, but you might not ever know it because she was so sweet, charming, and unassuming. Dorine would tell you she was a simple woman, but this would be far from the truth. She was truly the smartest person I know. Not formally educated, but just smart, practical, and could pretty much solve any problem or puzzle. She was so patient to stick through a challenge and to figure it all out. I thank my lucky stars she was patient enough to stick with me for 49 years, and I can tell you firsthand that was a challenge. Eddie puts this into perspective in two ways, as he always seems to be able to do. First, he would say, "Dad, you're lucky Mom accepted your proposal." And then the other thing he's often said was, "Dad, you're lucky Mom stayed with you." He's right, of course, on both points. Dorine and Google were close friends. My Uncle Bobby was always amazed at how fast Dorine could resolve a question we had in a discussion with that little tablet of hers. Nothing got past Dorine. Dorine was an amazing cook. If you've eaten Dorine's gumbo from her Aunt Amalda's recipe or her lasagna fashioned after Pepino's restaurant in Kailua, Hawaii, you know what I mean. Her cooking was really good. Most of you wouldn't know that Dorine needed a special device or tool to cook her gumbo. She stood on a stool so she could reach into the big pot to stir the gumbo because she wasn't tall enough. I've gotten several photos of this image, not necessarily to her liking. Dorine didn't really like having her photo taken. I have dozens of photos like these and these. Dorine spoiled us all at home, especially our animals. When she dressed up to go out, Bailey expected her to call her over so that she could apply lipstick and gloss to Bailey. "Got to keep our girl pretty," she would say. She was always doing things like that just to make life fun. When Eddie had his accident on January the 2nd, 1993, it changed our lives dramatically. Dorine took charge, and I mean she took charge, in a motherly, affectionate, and tender and loving way, but also in a very strong and determined manner. They told us Eddie would probably not live, and if he did, he would not be able to do anything due to the severity of his brain injury. Dorine's focus, her persistence, her love for Eddie, and taking charge of Eddie's care is a big reason he has made so much progress. It also had a lot to do, I think, with Dorine's positive approach to Eddie's situation and how she tried to make each day fun and enjoyable in some difficult situations. Quick story. Every morning when she would go into Eddie's room to get him started, she would knock on the door and use a Darth Vader voice and say, "Eddie, I'm your father." He would quickly answer, "No, you're my mother." So they would have that little routine every morning, and it was just a way to get him started on a positive note, something that Dorine just had a knack of being able to do. Dorine and Eddie had a very special relationship. When he was young, she carted him all over Middle Georgia to play in 10 to 15 golf tournaments every summer. She was there during the good times, and there were many of them, and the tough times, always encouraging Eddie and supporting him. She really helped mold him into the person that he is. She was untiring in her care and support of Eddie, and her support of me too, for that matter. Her stamina and patience really amazed me. I know that in her final struggle, she fought so hard to get back to us. At one point, we thought she would recover, but in the end, it was too great of a challenge. In fact, after 9 days of being on the ventilator, they brought her down to a regular room. We were able to talk to her, and she said, "I'm kicking butt." It really sounded like she was making the progress that needed, but then she had to go back on the vent, and she just ultimately couldn't make it. Eddie puts it best every night when I ask him to say a special prayer for Mom. He always says, "Mom is still with us and she's smiling." I know that he's right. Dorine loved her nieces and nephews so much. She loved her family. I think a big reason for this was due to how much she loved, looked up to, and respected her aunts and uncles when she was a young girl. They had a very close family ties. She enjoyed seeing her nephews and nieces grow into young adults and start families. She enjoyed being with them. Dorine was very proud of her family and loved them dearly. Some of her most enjoyable times, I think, were when she was visiting family or when they would visit us. One of the big events every year was Christmas with Mark, Kathy, and the girls. Every year since 1994, we've had Christmas together with Mark's family. Many of those years, we went with a theme that Dorine initiated. Anything from the movie Christmas Vacation, Emoji Christmas, Reindeer Christmas, to Groucho Christmas. Needless to say, we had fun during the holidays, and Dorine was a key reason it was so much fun. And of course, there was always a big gumbo to eat, which tied it all together. Dorine put others before herself. All she ever wanted was for someone to appreciate her and love her. She never was self-centered or needy. Dorine was truly an easy person to be around, and she made everyone comfortable. She never met a stranger. I would be amazed when she would come home and tell me about having this long conversation with a complete stranger at the grocery store. Never happens to me, but it always happened to Dorine. Dorine would attend many of my class dinners, and she was so comfortable you would have thought she knew my students for years, not meeting them for the first time. A few students became very good friends. Dexter Oliver brought his wife Denise to a class once and took her to dinner. Dorine and Denise sat next to each other, and they connected immediately. It was just like they had been sisters for so long. Dorine was a real giver, and she had so much talent and love to give. She loved people, and they loved her back. Dorine was Eddie and my rock and compass to keep us on course. She's my hero and will always be my best friend. Eddie and I are so fortunate to spend a lifetime with such a wonderful person. I love you, Dorine. Dutiful mom and wife. How we doing, Dorine?
I need my coffee.
Dorine got us up at the crack of dawn. Well, maybe that girl will come by and we'll get us some coffee. Coca-Colas, Baby Ruth, Snicker bar, ham sandwiches.
Don't need all that. I just need some coffee. Okay?
She needs some coffee, bad.
Can't see, can't talk, can't move.
Get a close-up of this pretty woman.
Don't. It's
Hattie.
an ugly sight. It's early in the morning.
Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one else above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away all my sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. For the morning sun and all its glory greets the day with hope and comfort too. You fill my life with laughter, and somehow you make it better. Ease my troubles, that's what you do. There's a love that's divine, and it's yours and it's mine, like the sun. And at the end of the day, we should give thanks and pray to the one, to the one. Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one else above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away all my sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. There's a love that's divine, and it's yours and it's mine, like the sun. And at the end of the day, we should give thanks and pray to the one, to the one. And have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one else above you? You fill my heart with gladness, take away my sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. Take away all my sadness, fill my life with gladness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. Take away all my sadness, fill my life with gladness, ease my troubles, that's what you do.